beginning to see more of these security drop boxes you can get for deliveries. I think those are gonna become quite.
It is 1:45, and we will continue with our budget presentations. Next up is Stephanie with the city attorney presentation. Steph.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. So I have passed out what we've compiled as kind of a one-page fact sheet. It has a front side and a back side. I think everybody at the dais should have received a copy, and I do have 3 extras for anybody in the audience that's interested in having it, and we can send it out via email as well. But that's intended to kind of just be the who, what, when, where, whys of our office. And on the back page, it includes a line item breakdown of our 2024 budget, our 2025 budget, and kind of the dollar change, as well as some discussion items that we'll lead through. But first, I brushed off our PowerPoint from last year, so the veterans are going to see some familiar language here. But for those that are seeking office, it might kind of be a good just kind of way to familiarize yourself with our particular office. So I started off with some city attorney budget basics, which can be divided into kind of 4 separate categories: people, education, things, and maintenance. We don't have vehicles that we have to maintain. We don't have multiple locations aside from our municipal court desk that we have to maintain. Our city employees, our outside counsel, and our legislative specialists are gonna take up the bulk of that budget. So I'm gonna start with kind of describing who our people are. We have 5 city employees. I'm the city attorney. As the mayor mentioned, my name is Stephanie Stahlheim. I'm a native of Mulhall, North Dakota. Was born and raised up there, and then I attended UND for my undergraduate degrees. I have 2 bachelor's degrees in political science and communications, and then I stayed around for my law degree as well. I had a host of jobs before coming to the city. I worked at a couple of law firms, both here and in Sandpoint, Idaho. And I returned back here in 2015 to take a position with the city attorney's office, and I've been here ever since. So I was an assistant city attorney until about a year and a few months ago, back in 2022. So, and I've been with the city as a city attorney for a little over a year now. We have 2 assistant city attorneys, Nick Schmitz and Corbin Dickerson. One thing that we did this past year is we kind of developed a portfolio system. And so Mr. Dickerson maintains what we call our public safety portfolio, so police, fire, and municipal court, as well as our airport. He maintains those portfolios and is kind of like the first contact for those departments. Nick Schmitz has our community development portfolio, which includes attending the planning commission meetings, and then he also assists our engineering, public works, and community development departments with their initial issues and points of contact. And I'm also available as well, but it hopefully helps develop a little bit of expertise amongst the different attorneys in our department. We also have 2 administrative assistants. Their names are Nathaniel Henjum and Nancy Horst. And Nancy has been with our office since 2015, and Nathaniel has been with us for a couple of years as well. We have several outside counsel contracts that we maintain. A new one is Dorsey and Whitney. They've represented us in litigation in the past, and we've brought them on this past year with the permission of the council to advise in complex economic development matters. Onstead Twitchell is our conflict counsel for bankruptcy matters, and if there's any conflict matters that involves our office. So for instance, we had an alcohol hearing earlier this year where we had some conflicts, and so we brought in Katie Schmidt with Onstead Twitchell to help advise the city on that particular instance. And then we also have Swanson and Workup, who is our contract counsel for eminent domain matters, and they're also helping us with some inverse condemnation issues related to a paving district issue right now. We also have a legislative specialist. Shane Gettle is a special assistant city attorney for the city, and he assists us with legislative matters. So that's the summary of our people. Moving on to education. Our education can be broken down kind of into 3 separate areas: association fees, legal research, and CLE courses. So we have to pay our bar licensure fees, which are $380 a year if an attorney's been licensed for 5 or more years. We are also members of several associations, including the North Dakota Municipal Attorneys Association, the State's Attorneys Association, and the International Municipal Attorneys Association. The state's attorneys, this gives us access to our counterparts across the states. It gives us access to listservs and other tools that kind of keeps us knowledgeable about what other challenges other communities across the state are facing and how they're addressing them. We have some legal research tools, including a Westlaw subscription, and we do also maintain a paper copy of the North Dakota Century Code up in our office. Attorneys who are admitted to the State Bar in North Dakota also have to complete and report 45 hours of CLE activities every 3 years, including 3 hours of legal ethics requirements. And oftentimes they have free CLEs. We try to attend as many of those as we can, but a lot of them do come for a fee as well. So moving on to our things, kind of mentioned the books that we have. We do have several desk references that we use as well. Office supplies, pens, notebooks, typical materials, office equipment, desks, computers, printer scanners. You're going to see a decrease in that in our budget this year since the shift over to the new building. We do have some maintenance costs that we share in as well, such as building expenses, electricity, insurances, finance, security fees, technology fees. I'm sure you've seen those in other budgets that have been presented to you this morning. We share in those costs and expenses as well. So our 2025 budget requests are to maintain current staff, maintain our licensing, maintain outside counsel. You're going to see a slight increase with maintenance costs since coming over here to the new building. You're going to see a slight increase in education and training. There's an increase in travel to some of those conferences, and an increase in advertising. So the total cost of what we're seeing in our preliminary budget ask is $808,368. Moving over to this fact sheet, I do have a couple of budget discussion items that I wanted to just bring to the group's attention. The first is one thing that we've included in our preliminary budget is a subscription to the American Institute of Architects document suite. It's a software subscription and includes a lot of legal forms and agreements that define the relationships and terms involved in design and construction projects. So one of our office goals on the front is to try to increase efficiencies. And I know there's been some discussion about building renovations, possible construction of new buildings, things of that nature. Document suites like this is something that can help expedite that process, especially as members of the International Municipal Lawyers Association. They have a team of attorneys that have gone through the AIA forms and have made recommended updates that are consistent with municipal law practices across the country. So that's something that we've included. The total cost is $1,995. But this is something that the AIA documents are not unfamiliar to our office. We've seen them before. And if the council and any new council members don't foresee a lot of construction in our near future, this is something that I encourage you to remove from the budget. This is just something that would expedite if we're going to actually be doing a lot of construction. So if that's something that we foresee, I think it's something that in the end we could gain some efficiencies if we're going to see a lot of that. If we're not, I think we hold off on that particular item until another year. Second, there's an airport law conference that is included in this year's budget to send one staff member to. As I mentioned earlier, Corbin Dickerson with our office maintains the portfolio for the airport. Every other week, he goes out there on Monday mornings and helps them with different matters that are facing the airport, such as reviewing documents, helping them prepare for the next week's council meeting, things of that nature. He is a member of the Air Force Reserve, so he's not unfamiliar with airport items, but it is something where a municipal airport and its operations are different. So airport staff has attended a national airport law conference hosted by the American Association of Airport Executives for a number of years. Given that our staff spends a significant amount of time reviewing it, that's something that we've included in this particular year. Total cost that we estimate to attend this conference would be $1,239 if airport pays registration and flight out of their budget, or if we're going to pay everything, $2,471. Our budget is based on that first number. Third, our two legal assistants inquired if they would be able to join the State Legal Assistant Association. It's $50 a person. We included that in the budget, and then our assistant attorneys also asked to include membership in the Ward County Bar Association this year at $100 each. So we did have one Ward County Bar member last year, so this would just be adding another attorney there. The Legal Assistant Association fees are new. And then one item we just wanted to put on the council's record, or put before the group here for consideration is, a couple weeks ago, we were asked to attempt to locate a document from the 1980s with no success. It absorbed a significant amount of staff time. There's debate over whether or not the document even existed. So during the pandemic, one of the things that our office did is we digitized all of our files. That took several years, but it's made searching our files significantly easier. And so that's something that I would just put before the council to consider, doing that with all of the city files. But that's likely not to come without an expense. I haven't included it in our budget. Just putting it before the group for its consideration, is that could be an expense that's coming down the road that could perhaps increase some efficiencies, since increasing efficiencies is one of the goals of our office. So with that, I'll stand for any questions that the group has.
Paul? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Steph, just when you talk about digitizing records, what is the current situation? Like when you say someone was searching for a document, is there rooms filled with boxes and filing cabinets? Is it?
There's rooms with filing cabinets that are here at the old city hall. I believe there's rooms that may or may not have files in them that are maintained. There's rooms out at Public Works that have documents in them. I know our building officials have kind of gone through digitizing their files. But when it came to this particular document, I was 5 years old when this document was allegedly entered into. So trying to find a good starting spot to locate it. I mean, we reached out feelers everywhere. We had multiple city staff kind of taking a look for it. And like I said, it's questionable on whether or not the document even exists. And so it's one of those things that as you're doing that, it's like there has to be a better way to do this. But at some point, somebody has to be the jumping off point that says, should we digitize everything? Should we take that move and start scanning in the files and saving them in a different format so that we don't have to truck it over to City Hall? And I think it's in the PD evidence locker where they have it. So it's a secured location. We'd have to set up a special time with PD so we can be accompanied down there to go through files. So it's one of those things where it's something to just kind of have on everyone's radar. Our office was able to start doing it during COVID, and we just digitized a little bit every day. And over the course of about 2.5 years, we ate the entire elephant. But it's so much easier to search through our documents now that we're not having to go through file cabinets or go to other locations. But again, that's not included in this year's budget, just something for the council and any future council members here to kind of consider.
Staying on that theme, though, how far back? So have you started, I mean, is that normal process now to digitize documents?
I think I would go so far as to say it's the ideal process. There are some state laws, especially for instance with building documents, that you do have to maintain original files forever of the paper documents, like the blueprints of how things were constructed. So we're not going to get entirely away from paper, but we could get away from a lot of it, I think.
Any other questions from council? Seeing none, any from candidates? Anything? Thank you, Steph.
Thank you.